one who grew up in this city, I can tell you, probably like you, I grew up thinking all sorts of things about this monument, none of which were true. The crowd of rapscallions I ran with made up amazing stories about this monument. You see those cannons, we were told, those were the cannons that started the American Revolution, you know. And we were also told, we told ourselves anyway, that the door that was there, you know, inside, if ever we were attacked, there were guns for everyone in town, men, women, and children. And then maybe craziest of all, we grew up believing that underneath there, if you went inside, there was an underground shelter. I guess if we ran out of ammo. But we know today that that monument stands for something true and wonderful, and that is this city and this county's commitment to always and forever honor the women and men who serve our country and who've given their lives for our country and our freedom. And it is in their name and their honor today that we gather and we celebrate and we remember, and we also mark 100 years of this beautiful, unique thing, one of the many, many things that makes this city so wonderful and unique. We're going to begin by giving thanks and by pledging our allegiance to the flag, and leading us in that is the Sheriff of Carter County, Chris Mathis.
God, thank you for our children. God, thank you for our seniors. Most of all, thank you for our veterans. God, for without them and all their sacrifices and their family sacrifices, we wouldn't be here today. Again, we give you honor in this day because it was your son that paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. And we give thanks for that. Amen. Amen. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rang glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
First, I would like to introduce Miss Haley Pierman of Happy Valley Middle School. She's here to tell us what the Soldiers Monument means to her.
My monument represents my soldiers. It reminds me of all our freedom. They fought for our rights as U.S. citizens. This monument represents their work, courage, and bravery. We're here to celebrate its 100th year standing tall. This monument is fairly close to where I live. When you go down the street, you circle around it, and it has a door on its side. It is close to the wall where all our veterans who have fought in the war's names are. My papa was trained to be in the war. His name is on that wall. The monument is rectangular and it has a point at its top. It's an amazing thing to see. The monument has been here since 1913. That's 100 years now. These courageous men and women shall always be remembered.
At this time, I would like to introduce Miss Megan Bowers from Elizabethton High School, and she will give her a say of what the monument means to her.
Douglas MacArthur said, "The soldier above all other people prays for peace, for he must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war." Everyone knows where the Carter County Monument is. If you live in this town, chances are you have passed by it at one point in time. You may have even wondered what it was, and most of us new drivers were perplexed as to get around it. However, do we know what it is, and most importantly, do we know what it stands for? It's not just a large piece of sculpted mortar, it's a memorial to our fallen, those who left mothers, fathers, wives, and children to fight for our freedom. The monument began with a letter to the editor. In the letter, it was expressed that Carter County had forgotten its veterans. Our veterans were not being honored or recognized, and a memorial was requested. 10 years later, rock was taken from the Doe and Watauga rivers. They were brought to the Carter County Square, and the Soldiers' Monument was built. On October 10, 1913, a formal dedication ceremony was held, and the Soldiers' Monument was presented to the citizens of Carter County. A Union and Confederate veteran attended dressed in uniform and held hands symbolizing the unity of our county and our country. The past was put behind them where it belonged, and Carter County showed forgiveness. The monument was later dedicated to the past, present, and future soldiers of Carter County. The monument is important because it represents the men and women that have fought, are still fighting, and will fight for our freedoms that we take for granted. It represents the soldiers that have served to get us where we are today, and their families that felt the ultimate loss because of it. My own great-grandmother suffered that ultimate loss when her 19-year-old son, William Wagner, never returned home from World War II. It was a loss that she never fully recovered from, and my grandfather, Darrell, never got to meet his oldest brother. My great-grandfather, Quentin Richardson, and 4 of his brothers were all fighting behind enemy lines at one time during World War II. Miraculously, all returned home to Carter County safe. My passion and respect for our veterans comes from stories told to me by my grandfather, Darrell Wagner, an Air Force veteran and my personal hero. I'm proud to say my family is full of veterans who have served and fought for our right to stand here today, including my Uncle Merle Wagner in the U.S. Army and my Uncle Forrest Bowling in the U.S. Air Force. And I cannot exclude my cousin Micah, currently serving in the U.S. Air Force, including 2 tours in Afghanistan. More than likely, our monument represents a member of your family or friends as well. The massive white monument is an important part of Carter County, and if you pass from the right direction, you can look up to the mountaintop on your left and see 3 wooden crosses. I'm proud to say that my very own grandfather, Ralph Bowers, a Navy veteran, hung those crosses with some of his childhood friends. I can't help but notice the significance and symbolism of that sacrifice that both structures represent, and I'm thankful for both.
When the militiamen met in Sycamore Shoals to march on Ferguson up on Kings Mountain, it wasn't for personal glory or even for the security of a newly emerging America. It was for the love of their families and the willingness to make the necessary sacrifice to keep the community they held dear intact. Even in the dawn of the monument's birth, this value shone strong as 2 American Civil War veterans held hands in the wake of its creation. The glory of this incident was clearly painted, however, in the fact that the uniforms they wore were of different hues, as they were of different sides of the war. There was no animosity between the 2, as they dropped everything they had previously been taught in the war and embraced the fact that they were from Carter County and would from then on live with honor in their true home, among their true family. This is what the monument stands for, and is what it still clearly lives on 100 years later in all of our hearts.
We've heard a bit about the history of this monument today, and Carter County has a historian, and he's going to come now and just fill in a few more gaps as we all become more educated about this wonderful 100-year-old structure. Carter County historian Scott Bowers.
About walk away, everybody else has gave such a wonderful history. Before I begin, I just want to say that there has never been a time in my life when I have felt so small and so insignificant than I do right now. I stand in the very presence of giants among men, and I thank you. The idea behind the monument began with a letter to the editor in The Mountaineer, published in 1902. The letter was penned by J.G. Birchfield, a Civil War veteran, a member of the 13th Tennessee Volunteer Cavalry. He spoke of the events concerning the war and stated that a son of Carter County now sleeps in 15, if not all, government cemeteries. Sons that gave their lives for their country. He voiced his distress that not a single stone had been raised in honor of those that had fallen. He asked, why not? Do we not appreciate their sacrifices? Or was it merely neglect? He proposed a monument to be built in or around Elizabethton, made with stone from the Doe and Watauga River. And on this monument was also to be remembered one of Carter County's most loyal women. That woman was Mary Patton, whose name graces the site of this monument today. While his idea was grand in design, it was still just an idea. And for 10 years, this idea floated around, was discussed, and for 10 years it waited for someone to take hold and make it a reality. That someone, that driving spirit, was David P. Wilcox. Mr. Wilcox was a minister, a saddle maker, a Civil War veteran. He was a combat wounded veteran whose injuries of war left him with a lifetime of disability. In April of 1912, he went before the county court with the following request. We, the Monument Committee, respectfully request your worshipful body to grant us the privilege of building a monument to the memory and honor of the soldiers of Carter County in all wars, from the earliest history of our country down to the present time. Now, I've read many documents with the signature D.P. Wilcox. This is the only time I have ever seen him sign his full entire name. And I think that is a direct reflection of what that means to him and how important it was to this county. The county court granted permission and later contributed $500. The city donated the land for the monument to stand on. Construction was completed, personally inspected by Mr. Wilcox, and given his approval in October of 1912. The official dedication was to be October 10th, 1913, to coincide with the 13th Tennessee Cavalry's reunion. Gentlemen, little miss, if you'll take your places, please. From every window of every building, the air was filled with patriotic music. Many a speech was given, but one speech in particular gave insight of what the monument stood for: unity. At one of the reunions, a Confederate and Union soldier came together and held hands to demonstrate that though torn apart during the war, Carter County now stood strong and unified. I have added a very special addition to this act. The young girl whose hands are held by both stands for the very reason for forgiveness and the common bond that overcomes all differences: family. David Sinclair Burleson said in his speech that he was proud to be the son of a private in the 13th Tennessee Cavalry, and that he would have been as equally proud of him had he wore the gray. The only traitor was a dishonest, cowardly, immoral citizen. The only treason came from dishonesty and corruptness. He spoke of patriotism, not of speech, not of war, but patriotism of peace. A patriotism that realizes what our freedom has cost: the rivers of blood, the oceans of tears. He went on to say that this monument commemorates noble deeds, but one day it will mingle with the dust and go the way of all human structures. He said they have built a monument, though, that will not pass, because this is not just a structure. This is a monument that was built to the cause of human freedom, happiness, and goodness. He goes on to compare such a monument to Iron Mountain, and as the mountain stands imperishable, so too will the monument of noble deeds. In 1973, this monument almost did go the way of human structures. Urban development was sweeping the nation, and Carter County was no different. Plans were made to bring yesteryear into the modern age. It was proposed that the monument be torn down, and a veteran named George Duggar Sr. answered the warrior's call once again and said no. He took to the battle, this time in courtrooms, and finally on May 31st, 1974, the court rendered its opinion. And when the arguments were over and the smoke cleared, George Duggar Sr. and the concerned citizens of Carter County had won the day, giving us this very opportunity to gather here in front of it today. Throughout the years, the monument has seen many celebrations, war bond drives, rededications, elections, facelifts, and the honor roll of heroes. And here we are yet again. Loyal citizens of Carter County from all walks of life coming together, unified around this monument to thank our veterans. And to lift our eyes to the heavens To those that have fallen so that we may live free, we will never forget. We will never forget. At this time, it is my great honor to introduce our next speaker, a veteran, a warrior who sacrificed many years of his life in the service of this great country. A Nashville native, he served 2 tours of commander of Company F, 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines. He also served as Assistant Division Commander, 2nd Marine Division during Operation Desert Storm. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Brigadier General Russell Sutton.
Let us not forget that there have been many sacrifices made by members of the armed forces and their families. Some have paid the supreme sacrifice and regretfully will continue to do so in the future. We need to keep all men and women in uniform who stand vigil around the world in our thoughts and prayers. In closing, I'd like to quote from Charles M. Providence. Listen to these words. It's a soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. And it is a soldier who salutes the flag, who serves the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows a protester to burn the flag. I ask that you continue to make a difference with your words and action. Thank you.
In a moment of silence, remembering, paying tribute, giving thanks for, and praying for the families of those who gave so much for our home. And together we say amen. Please stand as the wreath is presented. Leading us in the laying of the wreath today, retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Mark Cooter and U.S. Air Force Major Angelina McGinnis.
Okay, on the count of 3.